Pastor Jeff.
What's going on, man? How you doing?
California's on fire.
Straight fire, man.
As soon as I decided I wanted to visit, sucker goes up in flames. It's on fire again.
Again. And the bad thing is that it's not just that it's on fire, but it's, these winds, 40 and 50 mile per hour winds, helicopters can't fly.
They can't dump the water.
They can't dump the water. It's a bad situation, man.
Fire is one of the most fire and water.
Oh yeah.
Are just the most devastating, unstoppable forces. Once they come,
you can't.
Mother Nature's undefeated.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't care what mechanisms, coulda, woulda, shoulda. Enough of Mother Nature will destroy any possible preparation. The only solution to Mother Nature is moving to Mars. That's the only solution.
She probably up there too.
She probably up there.
She probably up there with a spacesuit on. Like, oh, you thought you got away?
Her cousin Space Sally is up there.
I'm gonna send this star at you.
Send this tornado asteroid. And I mean, we're praying for the victims. And there's so much because of our culture that swirls around this. First of all, and maybe it's a change of heart that I've gone, and I wish more people would, is that I don't care if people are rich. I don't care if it's Hollywood. I don't care if it's the West Coast you despise, the elite. People are people. The fire is devastating.
I agree with what you're saying, but I do have some sort of empathy, I think, because there are people who've lost everything. It's not just, where the rich people are. There are some poor people who lost.
It's just middle class.
But what I'm saying is, when you start saying like, you put these elite people on TV like Paris Hilton's beach house. Well, I'm like, come on now.
Now that kind of like
media peed me off.
But I agree with you for saying that, and I'll say that the media, if we want to say people are people, then people need to be people.
Yeah.
And I know there's a human interest story in saying such and such famous person, because there's an ear and an eye for that, obviously. And maybe that's what gets more eyeballs. But, the fact that the media still goes towards the George Clooney's,
Right. And I'm like, if you can pick up and buy and sell another house the next day, you got some of these people who, listen, insurance does not pay for memories.
Well, it won't pay for that. You're right.
And so,
but to that point,
now it ain't paying for nothing.
Right.
They're starting to talk about flaking out on everything.
No. They canceled people's insurance.
They're canceling.
They canceled it a few months ago.
Yeah. So, but to your point though, that's what I'm saying is, rich people have memories and mementos too.
Yeah.
Rich people have pictures of their babies, things that they can never get back to. And if this era that we live in hasn't taught us anything, some of these people ain't as rich as they look.
Now, that's true.
And they can't go get another house. That house was their asset, or they was spending loans on it or whatever. And like Mike just said, with the insurance flaking out, they might be up a creek, because some of those people are the people who tend to be overextended. Yeah. That's why they be talking about this actor that had this sitcom, and next thing you know, they working at Whole Foods or something. Trader Joe's.
Trader Joe. Bill Cosby, dude.
But the Bill Cosby show.
What hurt me, man, was they showed the one guy, man, or they talked about him, died in his front yard with a water hose, man. It's like, that is heart-wrenching. And then the other aspect of this whole thing is, I always get cautious. I'm very cautious, because it's like, okay, I want to send water. I want to send, a donation. It's like, you don't know who you're sending it. I guess you do it from the heart and just hope that somebody gets it.
There's reputable, like our National Baptist Convention sending 10 trucks.
Okay.
And I wish they told us first, so we could donate. I haven't heard from Lock Carey yet, and maybe I should have gone and looked up the page. Obviously, Lock Carey Foreign Missions is, y'all know I love Lock Carey. For those that never heard of it, you'll learn more about it soon. And, you know, your Salvation Armies, your Red Crosses, I mean, those are reputable.
Right.
They're going to have a benefit concert or something
Well, Snoop was actually giving away clothes. He opened up his store to give away clothes. You know, a lot of the rappers are doing things. I'm hearing a lot of the guys who are, they have a lot of the stands out there, you know, and they're just going up there and they're cooking for the fire. Some of these firefighters have worked 2 and 3 days in a row, just nonstop.
Yeah.
So, my heart goes out to them, man. Big ups to firefighters, man.
So let's just turn the page on this before we go to our first things first. And then there's the Saints' response. You know, this is God's judgment. You know, and that, back to what I said earlier about, I know it's Hollywood. Like, for some reason, this super spiritual set feels justified when calamity comes on certain populations. This is punishment for the evils and the excesses of Hollywood. I saw a meme that went up, but I didn't comment on it. I saw it multiple times, and then I saw it getting mocked. And it was a map of America, and they said half of America's on fire and half of America's under ice.
Yeah, the fire.
And it like split right down through the middle like Colorado.
Wow.
Which is totally untrue. Totally untrue. I mean, the California wildfires are massive, but they are in one part of California.
One
part. And it's devastating, and it feels like the whole country is dragged into that. Yeah. And then you have that once in a generation southern storm where everybody's sliding around Atlanta and Tennessee. And Tony Brown's down there laughing at everybody like, y'all don't know. But so I get like the sentiment, but it was God's trying to tell us something. God is judging the earth. And I'm just like, bruh, how many times are we going to overlook? And here's a thought I had, because I just listened to a podcast, my little daily news podcast. Just the same week that there was the fire, they declared a genocide in Sudan, meaning the America recognizes that a genocide is happening, which means I guess they're going to intervene or whatever. And up until this point, over 150,000 people have died in the conflict. And nobody posts that, including my good black saints, the suffering of black-skinned people. Yes. Nobody posts that and says, you know, God is judging the earth, or
it's not clickbait.
What is God? There it is.
It's not clickbait.
And let's be clear. And we are often whitewashed in our prophetic impulses that horrific things can happen to dark-skinned people and we don't think about it. But if Americans or Westerners or white people, or, and I hate to say white, but obviously we still live in if it's a calamity on us or Western world, then God is judging us as if, again, God is only in America.
But it's not a calamity. Listen, if you live in Florida, you're going to have a tsunami.
You're going to have a tsunami.
If you live in California, there are going to be fires.
You're in Ohio, you're going to be in snow.
You're going to be in snow. Every once in a while, Niles had a tornado one day.
Right. God was judging Niles. He shouldn't have built that mall. All that commercialism, God is judging you. He tore them stores up. What they tear up? That skating rink? Tore that skating rink up. But I mean, we're so selective, and I just sick of the super spiritual talk. Yeah. I thought it met its apex, and I mentioned this once before when our Bishop Clark, had mentioned, be careful how you talk about the pandemic. Mm-hmm. Because who are you to say, and I know we still say it flippantly, God spared my life, but what about that staunch believer?
Right, absolutely.
And God didn't spare their spouse or their loved one, and what are we saying?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, be careful. And I know the Bible's full of it, but we're so picky and choosy about it. And maybe in the Old Testament, all they knew was the known world of who was around them in such a space. But we see the whole world now. Yeah. So I feel like, and with all this weather stuff, like, we have scientific explanation for why this is happening.
Absolutely. The one thing that I did want to bring up, and I didn't get a chance to study it as much as I wanted to study it, but about these prisoners on the front line.
Yeah.
They put prisoners out to fight the fires. Listen.
Now, for those of you who don't know, they do training in the gym.
No, they don't. No, they don't. No, they don't. They give them super soakers. They say,
get out there, boy.
They say, get out there. Do your best.
Y'all wrong.
They get super soakers in a Stanley full of water.
I mean, they put them on the front line, man.
They do. You are now good enough to have a career. Now that this country is burning, you are a useful member of society again.
The fire over? Come on back. Come on back.
Leave the burnt up clothes outside.
Inmate 5734. Oh my goodness.
Them brothers driving the trucks in Colorado, they drive. I mean, but yeah, I mean that's I saw that too. They got the inmates fighting the fire.
And you know somebody like, oh, they gonna think I burnt up in this fire.
Right, listen.
I ain't going back.
I'm gonna throw my shirt in the.
What about the so-called looting?
Oh, that's horrible.
They blaming people for looting, and all they doing is just carrying stuff from their house, man.
Yeah.
But there are some. There's some.
I'm sure it's
every time something happens, but
a lot of people got arrested.
Yeah.
I mean,
they were just saying that, like
on,
Sunset Boulevard and the one thing that takes you back to the Palisades, like they have this checkpoint. They check your ID. They want to know that you live there before you can go back.
Right.
I guess to see if your property survived. And but I mean, what calamity or tragedy doesn't involve people taking advantage of the situation? That's just a part of life, yes. But we're praying for them, wherever we can donate and give to help. And it, like you said about Snoop Dogg passing out clothes. I mean, that seems like such a farcical thing until you are that person.
You don't have any.
Who is somewhere. And I mean, our grandparents, the Warren experience, I'm sure they had some in Youngstown when you grew up. Our grandparents talk about the big flood in Warren in the 50s, where they had to go like sleep in Packard Music Hall.
Wow.
Because the flats flooded out, which is not far from, Second Baptist, where the old church was. And, so the older ones tell us those stories, but we haven't really had that have to go shelter somewhere kind of reality. I don't think in my lifetime, I remember ever watching the news and saying people had to go stay in this gym for a week,
right?
In our area. Right. So we can't fathom it until it happens. And people like that, like, what are they going to do anyway? They ain't about to make no sales. Right. I mean, you might as well, whatever.
And I do, I know we got to move on, but I do want to, just continue to keep them because the ban is lifted, but they're going home. They can't use the water. Right. There is no gas. Yeah, so you're going home to.
And to what Tatum said, there's happened stuff. She mentioned Haiti, civil unrest in Haiti right now. Like we just got an alert. Some of the Christian service agencies, and this has happened before, where Christian missionaries got caught in the middle of political unrest, conflict.
Yeah.
And by the way, people who go to help can end up getting hurt, sick, even fumes, the particles, people that drive the trucks in or they're going to do work, those firefighters, of course, EMS workers, police officers who have to be there, just like 9/11, they're going into it, they're exposed to it. And so we're keeping all of them in prayer and, love to everyone on the West Coast and to all y'all sliding down the freeway.
Hey, what's the name of Snoop Dogg's clothing line?
I don't know. Nothing but the dog in me. I don't know.
Okay.
You want to be a sponsor?
Doggy style, I guess. I don't know.
I was just curious. I knew he had everything else.
Man, it's probably some Martha Stewart stuff for all we know, man. He's probably selling. All right, y'all. So first things first, they're trying to ban TikTok again.
Good. TikTok the devil, man.
You think TikTok's the devil?
The algorithm is too good, Doc.
It is.
I like TikTok.
It's too good.
Jeff likes it.
I like it too.
Jeff comes up like 9 times in a row on my TikTok. I'm like, I done watched a whole sermon in his minute messages. Yeah, I actually believe what they're saying about the Chinese government and the fact that they're collecting data. They're using it as a worm into the United States, and the fact that by all accounts, the TikTok that America gets is not at all like the TikTok the Chinese experience.
Is that right?
It's totally different.
Their TikTok is like PBS.
Yeah.
It's like literally PBS, Sesame Street, like it's their public television for kids and the public, mostly wholesome, educational, obviously probably pro-government, news, and they have their dances, they have all that. But like the utter foolishness and commerce and crazy trends and dangerous, viral stuff.
But for me, it's funny. It's because I see all these people on TikTok and they like, I don't want to see these naked Well, stop looking at them. The algorithm is the algorithm.
I kid you not. And one time it was wrestling. Literally, I watched like a classic wrestling clip came up. And I used to be wrestling, a big macho man, all that stuff.
Right.
But wrestling has not left me alone on Facebook for like a year and a half now. And I enjoy it, actually. It's kind of nostalgic.
Andre the Giant.
I mean, all that, literally, all the classic matches. I mean, because I was a wrestling fan back in the day. I was Junkyard. Coco Beware. Okay, I kid you not. Confession. If you just linger on a video, literally, it will catch your linger.
Yeah.
So
if you watch it too long,
brothers, I don't care if you're a preacher. If that booty video come up and you just take an extra 3 seconds, the rest of your day gonna be a battle.
Booty, watching everywhere.
It's gonna be a battle. Now you got to clear your cookies.
Cookies and caches.
Ethan better not pick this up. He about to become a man tonight. But it's social media in general is dangerous. We know it is. Mark Zuckerberg says they're taking off the guardrails that they had on that were censoring the fact checking. Fact checking and censoring. Censoring. Wow. So remember when they were like starting to flag ridiculous posts because you used the word hate? Even if you were saying like, I hate hot dogs, they were like, hate speech is not allowed. We flagged you. I got a community warning. They're taking that off, and they're taking it off in particular subjects that they had banned: politics, immigration, gender issues. So they were, again, kind of, trying to squelch people making transgender jokes. People, he's like, that's all gone away.
Yeah,
it's just open season.
Open season, bro.
Like Twitter, man. Because when Musk bought Twitter. I haven't been on Twitter in a while, so Musk bought it. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go ahead and see what's going on. Dude, it was dag near a porn site, bro.
Porn in N-word city.
I was like, oh my God, what's going on?
Like literally, if I post up, you can be a nobody, and because I started using Twitter again, just started like scanning through after I blocked all the crazy MAGA people. And I kid you not, what he just said. If there is a tweet of, do you think I look good? If you do that, you'll just get flooded with replies. Like I don't even click on tweets like that anyway, because you'll be flooded with like bikini people and OnlyFans people. Do you think I look good? Shots and literally clips from websites. Literally. Watch me do this. And so it's like you can't even click on certain things to read the replies because you're interested, because it's about to get hijacked by either porn or N-words. Like stuff about Jews, because he took it off too. He took off the guardrails too. So, but what's the alternative? Because I feel like even if they ban it, we're just going to find other things. There's always going to be something else. Listen,
do you remember y'all trying to get me on Twitter over Ted's house?
I remember.
I never got on.
I remember.
I still have never used. I don't even know what it is. So if they ban TikTok, I'm just gonna be straight Facebook. That's it.
Watching it change was weird, because it was dead for a while and people were getting away from it. But Twitter is literally like the news more than Facebook is. Twitter has more focused, shorthand, authoritative, or supposed to be authoritative takes than Facebook does. Facebook is all your friends talking stupid.
Right.
Twitter is the whole staff of ESPN, CNN.
Right.
Their word is that Cam Ward's not coming back in the game. Word is that, Ben Roethlisberger has a strained calf. Like that little stuff that I really wouldn't see on Facebook. I would see fans ragging each other on Facebook.
Right.
I get news about a football game on Twitter. Does that make sense, Mike?
Yeah, it's like if you hear about something and you want to know if it's true, you go on Twitter to find out.
You go on Twitter.
Yeah.
So every time y'all see that meme that Don Cheadle died or something like that, OMG.
Go to Twitter.
Al Green just died.
You go to Twitter to see if it's true or not. Yeah.
That's hilarious. Mel said, I used to report bad looking food plates. Listen, you know what? we should nominate you for an award because that's a service to humanity. Because some of them are bad.
I can't even see. And then Instagram, it's like everything I post on Facebook just goes straight to Instagram. I don't even put it on Instagram. It just
because they're tied together. Yeah, they're tied together. And to that
You
point,
can turn that off, but yeah.
and everything now is looking for a monetary or commerce angle. So now there's TikTok Shop, where they're now selling you products or everything is attached to a product. And it's basically like a Temu TikTok.
I'm sorry, TikTok Shop, they got some good prices stuff. Dog, I've been shopping like a mug off TikTok.
I'm sure
every time I come home, my wife be like, "You bought something else?" Yes, I did.
You
Right,
and my wife,
right.
man, my wife be doing that too.
Man, let's say
I
hi
got
to
this
the
on
people
TikTok.
real quick. Let's scroll up and say hi to the people. Welcome to Religiously Incorrect Podcast. You know what to do. Like, share, tag somebody, tell them to come on in. Sister KK, good to see you. Sister Sherry Dampier, God bless you. Pastor Tatum, of course.
Mother Marsh.
Mother Marsh is watching. Praise God.
God is on.
Hey, yeah, we saw Shane. Shane is on. Pastor Shane.
I got a
He's our Twitch pastor.
Yeah, I got a text last week from one of the members and was like, I can't meet with you tomorrow because we had a meeting at the church. Remember I went down there. So I can't meet with you They can't meet with you because you didn't tell my sister Carletta that Religiously Incorrect was canceled.
Oh wow, they heated.
That's my bad.
They miss us.
Oh, last week?
You didn't even put up a notice,
No, I
man.
didn't.
Pastor Glenn, Jason, my man, good to see you. We hope you all are well. Mel, of course. Hope, God bless you. We can have our cold weather back. Hey, it followed you. Miss Roz, it followed you from New York to Jacksonville. Well, y'all know what time it is. What's up, Mon? Good to see you. So, I mean, we'll just have to adjust. We'll have to put our sermon clips somewhere else.
Somewhere else.
You know what I mean? But they've all copied off each other because once TikTok came out, Facebook came out with the Reels.
The Reels, yeah.
And, copying what they do. So there'll always be, there'll always be a platform. We're not going back. Put it that way.
Now, real quick, they want them to sell it, right?
At first, they wanted them to sell to a American company.
Right.
But the Chinese were like, we're not giving up our algorithm, like our proprietary information that makes TikTok so good. They were literally like, you can have TikTok, but you can't have the secret sauce that makes it what it is.
Because that algorithm is crazy.
That's like giving up 11 herbs and spices. I mean, that's
right.
The
Coke
McDonald's
formula.
secret, the Big Mac secret sauce.
The Eli sauce. I mean, you ain't giving that up.
2 all beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese.
Carletta said, I can't believe you put me on blast.
Your sister done it.
And Tatum said, oh, and let me end on what Tatum just said. I did see your post. Did you share that, Pastor Osborne or somebody else? No, it was Pastor Hampton from Columbus. She shared a post that said, for those of you who are worried about the TikTok thing, they were like, and I've said this in church before, these people control our platforms. And they said, you churches, you need to start rethinking where you center your content. Okay. Because if any of these places shut down, you're hit if that's the only place you really have your content. Like, get back to your websites, get back to your, our software that we use allows us to stream directly to a website. We gotten so used to being on Facebook. It used to be the goal to stream your stuff on a website and try to find a way to, go through all these codes and stuff for it to pop up. We might go back to that now.
YouTube.
They own you too, though. I mean, they're all one big company. If any of those shut down or censor or restrict, if they decided they don't want churches on no more, we're hit.
Yeah.
We're hit. It is what it is.
It is what it is.
So, well, thank you guys so much for joining in.
Maybe y'all go back to evangelizing the neighborhood.
We have to actually talk to people once again. Right. Well, y'all know what time it is. We're back for the new year. It's time for Meme of the Week.
Meme of the Week.
Meme of the Week. Meme of the Week.
Welcome to Religiously Incorrect, ladies and gentlemen.
Meme of the Week. Meme of the
Week. Thank you. Send us your memes of the week.
Meme of the Week. Meme of the Week.
We are, these are all jokes. We are just playing.
So this is a very clever ad. Or just like a little outreach bug video for a church, but I thought it was clever. It's hilarious. And let me know if you've ever been in this experience before. Go on ahead and hit the video, Mike. Not stepped over. Listen. You know you stayed too long if you're folding up your own slang cloth. Matter of fact, you know what? That could be a rule. If you got the nerve to get slain in the spirit, you got to clean up after yourself. You got to clean up your own, fold your own slang cloth.
No, you can't, because then what is the ladies with the white outfits
That's true.
gonna
That's
do?
true. That's true. What they gonna do?
Okay, they would have a fit. You touch their cloth.
But the people walking by you though. But you know what? We used to do that.
Oh yeah.
It would be after church, and
Leave 'em
people
alone.
would
Let 'em
still
let 'em-
be
let 'em
let them go. But we over here talking about y'all want to go to Applebee's afterward. While somebody is throwing up in the trash can, somebody's casting demons out of them.
Cat straight knocked out.
Listen, we over here like yo,
Dreaming like a mud.
Yo, I need the mozzarella sticks, dog, man. We over here hollering at females. Where you at? Where you going after this? That's hilarious. The step over was the worst for me, though. The step over. That was like a.
Listen, just watching these people.
Am I the only one that's ever opened their eyes on the floor and looked up like, oh, I'm still down here?
Oh, I've never been on the floor.
You never been on the floor?
Nah, man.
I hit the floor once.
I've hit it a couple times, but I wasn't letting nobody push me. I can tell you, once they started pushing, I'm pushing back.
Right.
Listen, I did like a duck walk backwards, like halfway across the altar one time when the guy was pushing on me. He said, slain in the spirit right before offering time. Or the people that stay down like the whole service, like it happened during praise and worship, and they just still down there during the sermon.
Them niggas sleep.
They be asleep.
Right.
You said, nope, been there, done that. Glenn said,
Yeah, to the benediction, I'm out.
I love it. Glenn said, laying there snoring.
Falling out, hitting your head on that pew.
At least give me a pillow or something, Doc. I mean, come on. Man, the worst was when the people really didn't catch you.
Oh yeah.
I never wanted to be a catcher. Man, because I don't want to be responsible for that. Then you always end up behind, somebody that's blessed, blessed and highly favored. Now you got to be responsible. Mm-hmm. If the Holy Ghost don't do it, it ain't going to get done. That's the way I look at it. I watched a girl hit her head on a concrete floor one time.
Wow.
Because a guy slayed, and she tried to act like it was a spirit, but she had a concussion. What was that dude, Tua Tagovailoa? From the Dolphins that kept getting the concussion.
Yeah.
Tagovailoa. Then the folk with bad knees, they can't get up. They need help.
Yeah, you gotta try to help them up. Oh my goodness, somebody's wig fall off.
Right.
You ain't got that lace front, Doc.
Your glue ain't good enough. Rosa said she loved being a catcher. I bet you she did. She probably did.
Because we had catcher training.
No, you didn't.
We had catcher training. You gotta have catcher training.
This show is brought to you by Phillips Care.
You gotta know. You gotta hold hands.
You gotta bend your knees.
You gotta hold hands so that the person falls. And you too catch.
Where is this in the priesthood? Where is this in the apostles' doctrine?
It's in 2020 revised version of the Bible.
Bria said too soon. Hey, you better start wearing them soft helmets they got in the NFL to church. If you in the deliverance ministry,
them concussion helmets.
You better start wearing them concussion helmets. Man, somebody fell in the game today and still got a concussion with the helmet on. It still took him out. It is what it is. Not catcher's training. I love it.
Catcher's training. You gotta have it.
All right, y'all. We want to thank our sponsors for supporting us. Phillips family of businesses, Phillips Care Lawn Services. They already doing their thing. Before you know it, no matter how cold and icy it is, the grass is going to grow soon enough. Carol said, just let me hit the ground. And you know I will too, Brother Martin.
Oh, that is hilarious.
They lawn start at $30. They also take care of other services outdoors. And while you're at it, why don't you check out Phillips Care Cleaning Services, residential, commercial, move in, move out, maintenance, renovations. If it has to do with a building, a home, a commercial building, they can take care of it. Call them at 330-219-7916 or look them up on Facebook at Phillips Care LLC. Planning the perfect event? Look no further. At Annex Events, we've got everything you need to make your event unforgettable. From stunning tents, comfy chairs, and all the extras, we've got you covered. Super Bowl parties, graduation parties, corporate events, and of course, church banquets and anniversaries. We cater to all. Plus, our friendly team will handle the setup and breakdown so you can relax and enjoy the day. Call Annex Events and let's make your next celebration a hit. Mention the Religiously Incorrect podcast and receive 10% off your first rental. Call 330-979-2909 or visit annexevents.com. Next time I'm gonna read it so fast, like a
You just did read it fast.
I was trying to beat the video. To be honest.
Hey, that's a. You ever tried to beat the time on your GPS?
All the time.
All the time.
I never don't beat the time on my GPS. I'm undefeated.
I believe you.
I am undefeated. I set goals like I'm gonna shave 10 minutes off this joint, depending on how long. What's up, Jamie? Good to see you. Good to see you. All right, y'all. So here's the subject matter for tonight.
Lord.
It's called What a Shame.
What a shame.
And no, it's not about the Steelers getting beat last night, nor is it about the Browns only winning 3 games and then Watson tearing his ACL again.
It's about
Probably chasing chicks around the club for all we know.
It's about Tyree's song Shame.
Not right. It's called What a Shame. And I'm going to give you a disclaimer right now because some of you will not know what we're referencing because we're going to describe it to you. And here's the reason. It is my conviction. Believe it or not, I do have some. I got convictions once in a while. All right. That because of the nature of the subject matter, we're not going to show the video.
Okay.
It would be okay if we did because everybody else has. But every once in a while, I have a conviction. And one of my convictions was, and we'll talk about how this issue came about, is that a lot of church folk had a problem with the video and the young lady who was involved in the video, but they kept sharing the video. Mm-hmm. And one of my points is, if you're so concerned about this young lady being embarrassed and humiliated, stop sharing the video, which I just refuse to do. So I'm not dogging nobody who did to comment on it. I'm just saying that since I want to be consistent with what I already posted 4 days ago, I've kind of canceled myself out from putting the video on our show. What we're talking about is the experience of a young lady, and I want to be factual here and leave out what we don't know and not add to what we really don't know.
Right, exactly.
And that is, this young lady got up in church and apologized to her church congregation for getting pregnant. Okay? For getting pregnant. Maybe somebody out there knows. I don't know the age of the young lady. I don't know.
She just seemed young. But
she seemed young.
I believe she was 17, allegedly. 17.
About 17.
Yeah.
Okay. So about 17-ish. So this isn't like a 13-year-old and it's not like a 25-year-old.
Right.
So 17-year-old, which none of us, these things have happened throughout life. Young lady is getting pregnant and, that kind of thing. So she got up in her church and she apologized. And shortly thereafter in the video, the clip that has been shown, because it was a church service, the pastor got up and spoke about how they are not going to celebrate. And he was using old school black pastor language, which I think a lot of us are familiar with. We ain't gonna have no baby shower. And I better not see none of y'all at no baby shower. And unfortunately, a lot of us are not foreign to hearing at least of that or experiencing it directly, where you get that kind of approach to both the confession and apology and also sort of the commentary from the leader afterwards. Now, this is stuff I only really heard about at that level. I've only really heard about, okay? But I'm not unfamiliar to the concept of it. And if you've been in church a long time, you're probably not either.
Absolutely.
I think one of the issues, before we dive into it, is that a lot of people either are already sour on church because they've heard of things like that, and it either offends them or it triggers something in them because they may have experienced it or watched somebody else experience it. But then there's a whole other segment of people who are really unfamiliar with that kind of old school apology thing, because we live in a society, including black society, where that's not, you just don't go to church like that, and you're not devoted like that, and you don't give people that kind of authority over your life anymore, and you don't feel obligated to tell anybody anything, anytime, honestly.
Right.
So there's a disconnect there too. So what I don't want to say, and Jamie already posted it up, was it voluntary? Some people said, well, he forced her to get up and do it. I didn't gather that from the video. And I think it's hard for us to imagine, even though it's true, that if people have been part of a ministry and they adhered to that belief, when this circumstance came about, while we might have a hard time believing it, there's a very strong chance that whether through the guidance of her parents or just her own conviction, she said, I know I did wrong.
Now, just for sake, there was a video, or was at least an admission, that she is upset that the people are making all this.
Well, I wanted to get to that.
So we're going to get to that.
I wanted to get to the response. But I want to talk about the initial outrage first. And the initial outrage, you know, when you first saw it, what was your first impression?
Well, I mean, again, like you, I've seen this. I've actually seen it. I've watched it. I've been under ministries like this. I think it's absolutely wrong, and I think it's wrong for several reasons. I really feel that people come to church to be changed, not to be charged. That's me, and I don't think people have us as pastors. I don't think it's our job. I don't think it's what, I don't think we should hold the position of God. And what really made me mad about the video was not the fact, well, it was the fact that she had to get up, but the fact that he went on and on. Ain't no baby shower. You lost your privileges of a baby shower.
You lost your privileges
of baby shower. And then went on to say, and the mama better not have no secret baby showers. I said, are you serious now?
I kind of smiled because I'd heard about it but never seen it in person. I'd heard about that kind of talk. And I don't want to say smiled like I enjoyed it, but I'm like, this must be what it used to be like when grandma and them used to talk about.
Yeah, that's how it was.
I mean,
like, that's how it was.
I mean, but I'm saying, and I don't know, obviously we don't know because all we done was saw.
The mama better not.
Yeah. I mean, all we saw is the video, but we don't know this woman's or these people's predicament. So you're stopping the baby from getting necessary.
Are we sure about that though?
I don't know position. I don't know.
But so my first impression is, man.
Oh yes. Don't touch that table.
Don't touch that table. Oh yeah. Ooh. Don't touch that table. Okay, that makes it
care
funny.
More about the table than go ahead.
And I guess this is what I always think about things. I literally was like, this isn't going to go over well. This isn't going to go over well.
Yeah, you already knew.
My first impression was not I'm outraged because maybe I'm normalized and I've seen so much. My first impression was things happen. Somebody already said it. I think it was Sherry said it. People believe this. People believe they should confess to their church. Those aren't the major people we see anymore and the prominent people. More people used to believe it back in the day.
Absolutely.
And this wasn't just if you were raised up old school holiness, they used to call it old school Pentecostal. Big. I've heard stories of Baptist churches, our church. People expected a young lady who got up pregnant to be publicly sat down and or, confessed in front of the church, apologized to the church. I've heard stories of people who got in trouble in a public way, like apologize to the church that you saw my name in the paper for something legal. Or the kid got in trouble. Apologize to the church for being listed as the juvenile delinquent who threw a brick through the window or whatever. I knew it wouldn't go over well, but I did not comment much besides my criticism of the outraged saints who believe that this man was humiliating and shaming her, but they're spreading her name and face to millions of people beyond. And I will say, my wife said it at home, she might be watching now, they shouldn't have streamed it.
Right.
Why? Why would you? Well,
right, exactly.
Was it streamed or did somebody do it on?
It was an actual stream.
Yeah, it looked like
it was like a camera showing the service. So here's the thing, though. The church has long normalized showing everything it does on streams. The church has started showing deliverance ministries, people testifying crazy, It started with that "I'm not gay no more" guy at the Kojic convention, and they were talking about how they shouldn't have showed that. So that's been going on, and we've been having conversations about when you should cut the cameras off and when you should not do that. I will say this, and this might be an unpopular take. In this streaming world, every church still has a core. And the only reason things go viral is because we choose to make them viral. At the end of the day, a certain group of people watch Second Baptist in Warren, Second Baptist in Steubenville, ABC Bible Church. And if there's 30 people in the church, there might be 150 people that watch it online. And if nothing spectacular happens, nobody outside of them folk would have even seen it.
That's right.
If we as saints, which by the way, church, online, social media people need to own their messiness and their propensity to share everything. Because let's say the 30, 40 people that we saw on video were in that sanctuary, and let's say 200-300 people watched the stream. Let's just say. And we all know, if you know how stream numbers work, a whole lot of people that watch the stream might not even saw that moment because they come in and out, watch 10 seconds,
right.
da-da-da-da-da. Anybody who's realistic about stream numbers know that all these numbers ain't adequate.
Absolutely.
There are really not 1,000 people watching Second Baptist on Sunday morning like that.
Right.
There's people popping in and out throughout the week.
Right.
But what I'm saying is, when we make the choice to help this thing spread, even in the service of expressing our opinions, even in the service of trying to advocate for her, even in the service of telling our own stories, at the end of the day, you still put a teenage girl's face in the face of an Ohio pastor who would not have ever known that in Virginia somewhere, on a stream that only so many people watch, that she confessed to her church. We have to own making, at least partly, they shouldn't have streamed it, but just because I see something doesn't mean I have to share it. And I think there's a discipline that the church needs to adopt when it comes to how we engage. I've seen ignorant comments on funeral streams.
Oh, absolutely.
They're the worst.
Absolutely.
You know, convention. Oh, man. Listen, if somebody ain't singing right, especially like these national funerals for these.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
They like get critical like they watch the Star Search or something.
Well, the whole church of laughs. Some of the stuff ain't really.
The memes.
It's funny, but it's not
stuff we
funny.
don't share on here because at this point, somebody just not singing their best on a Sunday is not funny anymore. Like that was funny the first few times.
Right.
Now we look for more creative stuff like Mike playing the drums with his hands. You know.
I mean, everybody don't have the best keyboard players. You know what I mean?
And so
you gotta, you can't just. And now you embarrass the whole church.
Keyboards fall down in the middle of your sermon. Pulpits fall up. We've all done it. But what I'm saying is,
podiums roll off.
We've had some experiences. So we do have to own that. But I will say, streaming is inappropriate. He's definitely from the old school. Here's one little caveat I kind of want to share. This pastor that went, and maybe I shouldn't say he had a small audience because he didn't. I think he had a larger audience, and here's why. He had started to have viral videos because he was like this dancing, tambourine playing pastor that would march around his church when they were shouting and praising God. So the funny thing was, he started off as this popular little figure pastor, this old-fashioned, Pentecostally, they're apostolic, old school apostolic. So it was like, he was like this meme, this joyful meme, like we want to praise God like Reverend so-and-so. Everybody loved him. But to me, and I just thought about this recently, like, you do know if he's an old school praiser, he's probably an old school pastor too.
Absolutely.
And we don't like to take both sides because the old school dudes that used to do that are also the old school dudes that did what he did. So it's interesting that this is where we're at. Yeah. But I want to say what Mo said.
The comments, I was going to say, go back there.
She said, I'm not completely mad at it. And I'll say what I thought. This is an example of living in extremes. What we saw in that video was an example of what some of the older ones and those of us who know about the old way, the approach of extreme shame.
Yeah.
Every time you did wrong, you were sat down, you were called out, you had to repent before the church, everything was sending you to hell. And by the way, getting pregnant out of wedlock is a sin.
It is.
And something that bothers me is we're almost acting like it's not a sin. Some people are talking like it ain't none of his business. It ain't nobody's business. This is supposed to be religiously incorrect, but can I be religiously correct a little bit? Sin is destructive, and it affects the community and the church and the witness of the church. And the Bible shows us over and over again that when people sin, the church addresses it, and sometimes publicly.
But my problem with it is like you said, I think this is to the extreme.
It is.
It's to the extreme. It's to the.
But to who though? People that have not grown up in it, aren't familiar with it, and a culture that's shifted away from it. It wasn't extreme when everybody was doing it.
Absolutely right, but let's just. I mean,
It wasn't extreme in 1940,
like you just said,
all the way up through the
like
90s,
you said, it's
basically.
biblically incorrect. I'm religiously incorrect, but let's be religiously correct for a second. Jesus with the woman caught in adultery. Whoever sinned first cast the first stone. I mean, come on. You cannot just put listen, if you can't cover them.
Okay.
If you can't cover them.
Okay, let's disagree.
Let's disagree.
That's one scripture.
That's one scripture. No, we can go back and
one
forth.
Scripture about Jesus dealing with obviously hypocritical men, which, by the way, there is a tie to what you just said, because like this young lady, the man was nowhere in the picture.
But he probably ain't nowhere in the picture.
Now, I will say, he probably was a brother that don't go to church, so that's not his community to apologize to.
No,
It ain't on him. But let me argue that.
Let's argue.
Jesus said, at the woman caught in adultery, don't cast the first stone. That's great. But when Paul came across a man who was sinning sexually in the church, he wrote a letter to the whole church and called him out by name.
Right.
And said, if you don't deal with him, you are all wrong for not dealing with him. And then he came back the next letter and said, did you deal with it?
Okay.
And if you dealt with it, then you should restore them back to the church. And on several occasions, Paul called people out by name and said, those people are sinning. They're like devils in the church.
Absolutely.
If you don't deal with it, it sullies the whole church.
So who we gonna listen to, Paul or Jesus?
The word of God, right? I believe that those scriptures don't work against each other.
I don't think they work against.
I
but
believe
once
that
again,
there
I
can
think
be
there's an
times of
extreme,
grace
right?
and times.
Absolutely, that's what I'm saying. There has to be a time of both.
But we can't. So to my point earlier, I said about the time of extreme shame. Yeah, that's it. I got some conservatism there. To Mo's point, we live in a day where there's no shame.
okay.
We live in a day where there's literally no shame.
Let's back up for a minute. Let's back up.
Go ahead.
I wasn't mad that she confessed. I was embarrassed for her, but I wasn't mad at her.
Aren't you supposed to be?
I was more upset at the preacher, the way that he shamed her and the things that he was saying.
Absolutely.
I agree.
I
That's
totally
what
agree.
made
with
me
you.
mad.
I agree.
That's totally
but
right.
I will say this to that point. And I hate to come off as a defender, but I kind of want to be the apologist here. This is their pastor. This is their pastor. And to Jeff's point way back when, is getting to that point, the mother or family member put up a post and said, basically, in short, y'all ain't helping. This is our conviction. She chose, and we don't know if it's true, but they said she chose and wanted to follow through with what they believe should happen when that happens. And at the end, she said, and that's our pastor and our belief, and we support them. And
How many other times before this that didn't go viral? Did it happen? It probably happened. It probably happens over and over again. And this was just her turn to do it.
There are still conservative churches. There are still fundamentalist churches. There are still holiness churches. And by the way, and all of them ain't little small. There are some mega churches that are super old school. They don't always show the super old school parts. They don't show themselves on, Facebook wrestling with snakes and stuff. But they believe women should sit separate from men, and you shouldn't have any interaction. And you should keep your head covered, and you shouldn't wear pants and church. There are still churches, and I'll say this: the Bible says, "Who are you to judge another man's servant?" The Bible is clear that Christianity, like it or love it or hate it, has room for different spectrums of conviction and conservative or liberal takes for it. There have always been more people, back to our little debate, have been more Jesus in the woman.
More grace.
And more Paul with correct it.
Absolutely.
There's always been a tension. And that's a big argument between preachers, by the way, what Jeff said is a joke, but it's true. We will literally say, who will you listen to, Jesus or Paul?
Absolutely.
And there are people who are like red letter Bible people. But he told the girl to send no more along. So there are people who say, hey, we should have dealt with this in private. And I can agree with that. You can deal with this in private.
But in the social media age, is very, and I mean, unless obviously you can say, stop the film,
You can say stop.
Stop.
Or she's going to get up after service is over and we've gotten, yeah.
But once again, we don't know. like I said, I would think that they've done that before, and they didn't go viral before.
It didn't go viral.
And so they probably thought this wasn't going to go viral.
Shane says, just because, and we haven't looked at a lot of comments, we're going to come back to comments. Shane says, just because the abused person has normalized the abuse doesn't mean the rest of us should be okay with it. I agree, but I will say also, we are very subjective about what abuse is, because we live in a day and age where we're being told that if our parents whooped us, we were abused.
Absolutely.
Even if
if the principal cracked you were abused.
Mm-hmm. I just saw a post, and I hope y'all not watching and get mad at me, literally saying that if you say, eat what I cook or don't eat at all, that's abuse. Somebody put up a post that said, you know how we were raised, you eat what I cook, or you go to bed hungry? Somebody said that's abuse.
I ain't gonna lie, I thought it was abuse when I was young too, 'cause my mama said that all the time.
So,
wait, no, don't just run past that.
Tell your story,
because
Jeff.
I'm upset
Tell your
right now.
story.
I'm upset. How you gonna tell me don't eat what I eat or go to bed hungry? Why didn't you just make what I like?
Make what I like.
Why you gonna make chitlins? I ain't eating chitlins. I ain't eating broccoli. You know I don't eat
beans.
I ain't liked them since I was 3 years old. I'm 18 now.
It ain't about your life. But okay, so again, abuse, trauma, all of that, we don't like to think so. But it's subjective.
It is.
It is subjective.
I like Tatum Osborne's.
Her point, she said she grew up in it. The mother isn't always the one shamed. The unborn child, when grown up, goes as a stigma. And that is true. As a bastard child, I am that child. That is strong. And that is real. Who you were always looked at differently because of how you were brought into the world. Yeah. And what we try to do with the baby blessings, because I got hit on, well, you'll just bless anybody's baby. And I'm like, yeah, the baby. I'm not blessing the sex they're having. I'm not like, y'all getting it in.
But old school would say you are, though.
Old school would say I am.
Old school would say you are approving
right
what they done by blessing the baby.
But what I'm saying is, and to change point, I honor your point because I get what you're saying, because there are people who live under toxic systems. And keep in mind, even those of us who were raised or at least familiar with that old school apology, that old school preacher saying what he want to say, pointing down at you, calling you out, you ain't gonna have a baby. That was normal to us. Then we'd look at some other church down the street and be like, that's a cult.
Right.
We look at some other church and be like, that's a cult. But now other people look at us now, if we have any of those elements of whether public correction, gotta ask pastor's permission for something, or I'm not allowed to do this because of my faith or my belief. There are other people who look at it, well, that's a cult. If that man in the pulpit can tell you, that you can't marry outside your religion, just whatever it might be, or you shouldn't. Sometimes we won't even say can't, we just say shouldn't, or, So it's subjective, because there was a lot of talk about they're in bondage, they're a cult, that's cult behavior. Let's talk about how far it went. An activist who claims to be a Black Lives Matter activist showed up at a Bible study that week.
Wow. Camera
on, confronting the pastor over the video.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're hurting and again, that's where the outrage machine that also exists in the church can get out of hand. Because yes, we have our beliefs and our opinions, but we have a hard time believing that other folk have their opinions and beliefs too, if they're different from ours. And I know we want to rescue everybody. We want to, again, standardize our way of how we have normalized handling and put that on other folk. But like I said before, fundamentalist Christianity is still strong. Absolutely. Corrective Christianity is still strong. It's not the T.D. Jakes, Joel Osteen that we're used to, but it's still out there. And matter of fact, I've said it before, politically and socially, it's a part of the backlash that we're seeing of people feeling like we're going too far, accepting everything. They're actually glad to see some folk get corrected. And I must say, as a pastor, and thank you for asking, Marlon, we're put in a tough position because we're often asked to approve of, support, or at least sort of like ignore egregious sinful behavior. We're asked sometimes to ignore people who are on their third or fourth child out of wedlock And how dare you tell me I need to back away from ministry for a minute, or we've listened to people preach sermons about how I'm still anointed. I can still be used by God. You've used it. And I know you don't mean it this way, but somebody that's literally sleeping with the whole city be talking about broken crayon, still color. I'm like, nah. I get it. Brokenness and struggle doesn't define you. We all preach that.
And it happens.
But we're often put in those positions. In my context, I would not do that. But I will not judge another church. Now, if she was forced, manipulated, and I know some folk will say just being raised that way is manipulation. I don't believe that. I don't believe that. And I know that's hard for some people to take. I don't believe that if you're raised with a strong conviction, because let's be clear here. We celebrate other religions that are just as tough.
Oh, yeah.
Fundamentalist Islam, you look at them and them brothers ain't marching. And we see that brother that everybody keeps sharing his videos, Geno Jennings.
Yeah.
It's, the Hebrew Israelite, Orthodox Judaism. A lot. Christianities are the ones that have the big public looseness. Then we turn around and celebrate. Look at how disciplined the Jehovah's Witnesses and the Mormons are, and the faithful Muslims are, and the Hebrew Israelites are. Well, trust me, behind the scenes, there's a whole lot more discipline behind wearing the same clothes and marching or knocking on people's doors on a bike. They have a lot of strict restrictions.
Absolutely.
And we turn around and honor and act like, you see how they got their community together? Mm-hmm. Well, guess what? It's because I've said this before and I'll say it again. Every culture that we admire, especially about black people, have a strong element of shame to it. Asian people, we talk about, look at how they stick together, Indian people. Mm-hmm. You know why? Because now I'm not saying they're all perfect. They don't have liberal, but they have a strong element of, you mess up, you shamed all of us. Yeah. You dishonored all of us. I had a question that I had literally in the store, because I've seen a video like this before. Okay? I've seen a video like this before. Young man on a college football team, 17 years old, 18 years old, gets caught in the dorm with a female. Coach catches him after hours doing something he shouldn't do. And I've seen videos like this. And he's suspended for a game or has to hold out of a quarter. And he has to get up and apologize to his teammates for damaging the team. Because we're a unit. We're a team. You've seen videos like this. I'm sorry I let y'all down with my behavior. I'm sorry that I cost us our best opportunity to function.
That happens often.
It happens a lot.
Yes. I never thought about that. That is true.
It happens a lot. So I get we have the outrage. I know we live in a day where, because of the traumas, the hurts, that has almost been exclusively directed at females. And we cannot deny that. Exclusively directed at females when it comes to this. How many females have been there? The man and the woman got up. And I don't know of any stories, maybe y'all do, where the man and the woman had to get up if they were in the church and apologize. But most stories we have, it was just a female.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Most stories, it was just a female. Because the man don't get pregnant.
He don't get pregnant.
Right? Then you got to sit down and watch somebody else who was probably doing the same stuff you was doing. Or you got a preacher who's messy. Or you got old folk who's doing messy stuff. And you got to apologize to people who are in the same junk you are, just didn't get caught. But back to the boy, I'm saying, what's the difference? Are not sometimes in the right context, this type of display of public contriteness, not an example of what maybe we could do a little more under the right circumstances? Again, only if they're willing. But did that coach manipulate that boy? That quarterback? Are they shaming him for the rest of his life? Because they know how it happened. Word gets around, and it's happened all the time. Hey, man, he was in there with that chick. He's embarrassed too. So I'm saying, are we just limiting it because we have such vitriol towards the church and such sensitivity towards females, that the broader concept, we try to throw the baby out with the bathwater and not say, how can we better take what we saw and say, yeah, I wouldn't have streamed it. Dude was crass about his conversation. Obviously he's 80, so it is what it is. But maybe, just maybe, there's space for learning how to acknowledge our wrongs again.
And my hope is that there is. Man, my hope is that there is some space, and that pastor maybe looked at this video. Yeah, I had to look at it.
Okay.
Had to look at it and say, I don't know if this is what was right, what I done.
Go ahead and just Pop in. Janet said, do you feel a program like yours, whatever had been accepted back in the day, you would be accused of sacrilegious? Just question. What do you mean Yeah. The fact that we can even talk about church. Other people say we were going to hell for having a conversation about church and questioning other pastors' decisions, joking about things that happen in church. You're absolutely right. Times do change.
I think everybody's religiously incorrect when they at home. I mean, so
that was Mike's concept. He was like, I know y'all.
Yeah.
I've been around y'all.
You know what I'm saying?
When Mike brought this show to us, that's what he was like. We need to have these conversations that we've been having private,
right,
openly. I want to answer Carol right there. Would you pastors agree that the correction without the lesson behind it is ineffective?
Say that again.
Would you pastors agree that correction, I'm sorry, I'm talking fast, without the lesson behind it is ineffective? If you discipline a child without teaching them why the discipline is necessary, doesn't correct the misbehavior. I would say I agree 100%. But absolutely. I would also say, and I don't say you're doing this, I think people look at the moment that showed up on Facebook and they decide that was the whole thing.
Right.
First of all, I would say in the context of this video, the young lady got up and apologized because she knew the lesson and she knew the why. She knew the why.
Absolutely. She definitely.
Now, you talking about some 12-year-old or something that, experiment, like kids do. But I would say that we owe it to people to teach them what the word says. And even if we're going to do these things, and maybe they've done it, and that's why they're so comfortable doing it. Maybe they've gone through those Paul scriptures. They've gone through those Old Testament scriptures. They said, this is why we believe what we believe. There are churches that literally say, and by the way, some of the reasons we have mess in the church is because we refuse to handle it according to the word, where the Bible even says offense between two people, for instance. If a brother offends you, go to them. If they don't hear you, bring a witness. If they still don't receive you, tell it to the church. And then the discipline of the church stands before God. And that's actually where the scripture, and I've taught this in Bible study, whatever you bind on earth is bound in heaven. Meaning, right. If I determine that Jeff is so rebellious that we didn't talk, then me and a deacon talked, then the whole church are aware that he's done this thing and he refuses. If I say, Jeff, you're sat down, that's what that scripture really means. That Jeff he can run down the street if he want to and say, can't nobody correct you. But God is like, if you, under the right authority and right spirit, tried to bring correction to this brother and he wouldn't receive it, then I honor your judgment about it.
Absolutely.
So there is a place for the church, and it's shown in the scriptures over and over again. But I think the issue is because there's so much hypocrisy, because we're so selective. And part of the selectivity, Jeff, and let's talk about this part, is we're not in a position as imperfect people to be perfectly perfect in our judgments. We're gonna be inconsistent.
And that's really what I want to bring up, because I've seen so many pastors sit people down, sit people aside, and then when it came to them,
don't sit themselves down.
They don't sit themselves down.
Listen.
My problem with most of it is this, that most people are only sorry because they got caught.
There it is.
Most people, listen, everybody who's cheating is premeditated.
You didn't slip on a banana peel and fall in nobody's.
It is premeditated.
Right.
You made up in your mind. You had several choices and several chances to not do what you were going to do, and you done it anyway.
And we all grown, y'all. Sex take work. You got to make a lot of, you got to undo a lot of stuff. Unsnap, unzip.
Sir, go to somebody, all that stuff. I mean,
reposition.
So, I mean, I'm just like, listen, and I'm not saying, because I don't know this pastor at all, but, we've all sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. Mm-hmm. It's just a reality. We've all made some mistakes. You done something. You are not perfect. You have not lived this perfect,
all of us,
life that you say you live. And I've heard Pastor Paramore say it all the time, and I use it often. You cannot cover who you can't carry.
Wow.
And there are some things.
Well, you can't carry who you can't cover.
You can't carry. Yeah, you can't carry. You can't cover who you can't carry.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I hear you. I heard it backwards. Gotcha.
Every once in a while, it's on us to carry some of these things, because if we're not teaching about not having sex in the church,
I'm pretty sure he's teaching about it.
And I'm not just talking about
let's
him.
be clear. Let's be clear. You know what? A lot of our churches are not even talking about these kinds of sins. We're not. Once in a while, I bring it up. I try not to be too harsh about it. But there is a fear. And I'll say this, not knowing this man, but think what Mon just said about his father did not sit a pregnant sister down because he knew about her circumstance that she was potentially suicidal. And I saw your comment, Rita. I want to come back to molestation. But let's stay here for a minute. Even the most old school pastors will tell you, oh, we know it's a different day now. Mm-hmm. And they're even doing some, shifting. I would say 30 years ago, X, Y, Z. And they're even saying different than they would have said. And it's still offensive to us because it's not our, it's not couth in this world. But what I'll say is modern preachers, and I'll include our generation in that, there is such a hard push from the other direction to not address what are very clearly listed as sins. And not talk about it too much because people just don't want to hear it.
They don't.
But at the end of the day, fornication is still a sin.
It definitely is.
Adultery is still a sin. Drunkenness is still a sin. I can keep playing this, but what about unforgiveness? That's a sin too. And you sleeping around is still a sin.
It is.
But they keep trying to cancel one out for the other.
Right.
And say, okay, what about all the mess the church folk do? What about this one that hates on that one? Yes. And by the way, I don't think there was ever a time when the church was like, unforgiveness is cool.
Right. And please.
They might have overlooked things.
And please, while he's saying that, and I just want to throw this in there for him, please stop using, there ain't no sin greater than the other. No,
it definitely is.
Maybe biblically there's no sin greater than the other, but the consequences, the consequences are bigger.
Let's just be clear here, man.
If you lied to somebody and you having a baby, there's some different consequences.
There's a whole different reality, and you're subjecting a lot more people.
Absolutely.
And I think that there are some things that we don't like to say, but one of the concepts that I've honed in on. And if I come it this way, it becomes uncomfortable for people. But Christianity really is a communal religion, which means the Bible calls us over and over again to consider one another.
Right.
And that's not just helping sister out when she needs, a little help. It also means your sin affects the broader witness of the church. And if the church doesn't show it has a conviction about your sin, then it is broadcasting. Now, watch this. What will we say about the genocide in Gaza and all that? Silence is consent. Mm-hmm. We would demand that people speak up for the things we see happening in the world that are wrong. If I've been there, you've been there. Oh, y'all ain't gonna speak up about that brother that got shot. Mm-hmm. Oh, you must be okay with it.
Yep.
So we got to still apply that to the things we say we believe in the word. That if we still believe these are sins that we need to be saved, because now the question becomes, and I preached this before, well then what are we saved from then at this point? Just feeling bad? What are we saved from at this point? If actual actionable sins are not what we're wanting God to help us sanctify so we don't do these things again, grace of God. I want to be encouraged. I want to know I have potential. I preached today about it. I don't think I said the word sin today. But it's going to come back around.
Oh, it's coming.
It's going to come.
Got a whole sermon on it.
It's coming. Dude, I want to talk about the molestation thing. Thank you, Tatum. No, go back down. Let me hit this because I talked about this. Play if you want. Ananias and Sapphira dropped dead in public in the middle of church.
That's right.
Peter could have took him to the back room and said, I'm going to give you one more chance to. They lied. So I'm not saying everybody should die because they lied or everybody should be shamed, but maybe there are circumstances where in certain contexts, in certain beliefs, in certain manners, God that's what he's calling for in the moment. That's how it's approached. And in some church down the street, the exact same thing happens to a young lady, and it's not a public apology. It's dealt with differently. The question was asked about molestation. I think just about every preacher would agree, any minister, any Christian, that is a wholly different thing than someone who has consensually done something that is, they know to be wrong, they chose to do wrong, and they're acknowledging they're wrong. I do think, and I've watched, not so much making them get up and apologize for sinfulness, but sometimes we've apologized. Why'd you put yourself in that position? And there are a lot of Christians that still talk about how you dress. You're basically inviting it.
Right.
We had 2 people bring up the youth lock-ins and shut-ins.
Listen, Big John. I said that to my wife the other night.
Yeah.
I said, because she was talking about this is a touchy subject because the reason a lot of people responded so virally is because they were triggered by their own experiences.
Absolutely.
I think that some people, one of our sisters, she was on a publicly, Kisa, one of my big sisters, and sweet sister, said, I went through this, got up and apologized in front of the church, and she spoke to it essentially like, that's just what we did. Right. And after it was over that moment, I still received love and support in this, but I knew that I was wrong and that I needed to apologize for it. And I'll say again what I said earlier that some of you might not have caught. Some of us say, where's the guy? And again, if it's in the church and both sinned, I agree they should both be treated equally.
Absolutely.
But I have preached this before. People who are not in the church are not obligated to church rules.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Have you ever had to sit anybody down?
Yes.
And did you feel the need to explain to the church why they were set down?
No. No.
Yeah.
Now, if it was a public, I've yet to have to do like a minister or a prominent figure, like in a very egregious or scandalous situation that needs to be addressed. I've yet to have like that circumstance. But I've had, people who are serving in the church in some capacity where honestly, it was easier that person just not doing what they were doing right now. And half the time, like, I don't think it's as,
so they don't get to wash the dishes no more with the kitchen committee.
Correct. Okay. And to Mel's point, my wife is correct. Watching someone else go through what you have once gone through or seen can be triggering. And I believe it is. I can't say, I know what it's like to be triggered, to see things and like, man, boy, does that bring this back up to me, man. But I do want to say we are in a day and time where the church is an easy punching bag. And there are some people legitimately, validly triggered, mistreated, healing from it, trying to deal with it, maybe couldn't go back to church or don't believe in God, or they've been back in church and now they see this or they see something and it triggers them. But there are also people who have been playing with God
absolutely
for a long time, or they were playing with God when it happened. And like you said, they weren't ashamed that they did it. They were ashamed that they got caught.
Absolutely.
I was raised going to musicals, hanging with the folk that would shout the church 1 minute and be trying to kick it with somebody just like you would if you was going to the club the next minute. And it was a joke. We knew better. It was a joke to us. And we called church hurt getting caught. We called church hurt. Nobody called it church hurt when they were hurting Jesus.
Check out.
So I'm saying I do believe those who are triggered. But I did say to my wife, to some of those people who shared it, who commented, who made a big deal out of it because they were hurt and triggered, that still doesn't give you the right to take another person's life and impose their experience on your own or yours on theirs, where she's not experiencing the exact same kind of shame. You're putting your emotions reopened on her. And that's what the mother was kind of saying. Right. This is our belief. Absolutely. You might have grown out of that. You might have been delivered from it. You might consider it to be bondage now. You were raised in it, and now you look back talking about, man, that was bondage. We should never have to do that. But whether you still believe in it or not, we still believe in it or not, we still believe in it. And you making this huge issue out of it in front of millions of people, sending folk to our church, spamming our website, calling the office, calling our preacher names that we believe in and love. You're not helping us by imposing your hurt on our experience. And so sometimes we claim to be healed and we're not. And all it takes is the right trigger to prove it.
And to Brother Greg's comment, I don't think that all pastors are afraid to preach what needs to be preached and what needs to be talked about. I do believe that everything is not a hellable offense anymore.
We know it's not.
everything, we're not sending people to hell. First of all, I don't have a hell to put you in or a heaven to keep you out of. So it's not my job to preach on whether you're going to heaven or hell. It's my job to tell you, what thus saith the Lord, what the Bible says.
But to his point, let's be clear. We bear responsibility for, listen, you don't think some other preacher, when you see the weight of the world going against, and I know it sounds good to be brave and take bullets and all that stuff, but when you see how viral you can go when you just stand up for what we used to call basic Christian principles. And let's go back. It wasn't that long ago. Everybody believed this. People was apologize like this in the 90s. I watched a dude get up and beg his wife to take him back in front of the whole church. You know what I mean? And it was willing stuff. And by the way, and some people kind of use the church to get back in good graces.
Oh yeah. That's the first place they're gonna come. Let's go to church.
Let's go back to church, baby.
Let's get counseling.
Back to Big John. What about the people who are constantly booked to sing at or play at church services, funerals, but the night before they were in the bar or at the trap? What about them?
You know what? I kind of want to talk about that, man, one night.
We should.
Talent versus anointing.
Okay, but I'm saying, but on one hand, Big John, I agree with you. But on the other hand, we keep saying we ain't got no right to judge people. But then we find reasons to judge people.
Right.
So some people are saying, let that man make his money. Let them express their gift in other places beside the church. Stop being so hard like they can only play Amazing Grace. Okay, so they do. And I'm not saying he's saying that, but I'm saying people, we flip this judgment thing. And let's just be clear here. In a way, people are judging that pastor. They've decided to make a judgment call. They're not saying, who are me to judge? They're saying, that's wrong.
I did.
That's
just being honest.
Right. We judge. So I think one of the things is that we all should just admit that we are all imperfectly selective about what we're outraged by, what's the most important thing to focus on. There are some people, and maybe these people are right. All they do is talk about sex. All they do is talk about is gay and this, that, and the other. And you should talk about unforgiveness and being pure of heart and all of that. There are people who believe that. Mm-hmm. And then they will go to a church where all you preach about is unforgiveness, being pure of heart, God's going to bless you, be right in your spirit, but they don't want to hear anything about practical sins of life.
Right.
So to me, that's an imbalance on either side. To Tatum's point, it is true. We only like to deal with the visible flesh struggles.
Right.
And to Carol's point, can we back up a little bit to Carol's point? Because I like that. So should sins committed in public be confessed in public and those committed in private be confessed in private, perhaps just to head off this very situation? To a point, but let's just be clear here. The young lady got pregnant. Her belly was going to get big.
Right.
I think some people posted back in the day, they used to send people away, come back with a little sister.
Right.
You can only hide it for so long.
But maybe that's a part of it, is let me get ahead of this so that the healing and the restoration can begin. I remember when my father, I think I told the story before in church. I might have said it on the podcast. I was probably in 7th grade and going to Southington. And we were mixed up with 3rd graders, 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade. This little girl started saying all the smart mouth stuff. She was 8. I'm 12. And she's saying all the smart mouth stuff. And I said a bad word, and your mama's a blankety blank. And, all of a sudden she turned into a little girl again. She's like, ooh.
That was the first Karen ever.
And I was that mad, yo, she was, but of course I'm the big boy. You ain't about to untaught me, but I remember when my dad got me in the car after the school called. She told her mom, the mom called the school called my dad. Dad drove me to her house and made me apologize to her and her mother.
Wow.
Made me apologize to her and her mother on the front porch. And that's something that nobody would have ever known, but that's an old school ethic. You're going to apologize. I watched Coach Gray do it the other night, literally at a basketball game, to a young man that we both know. He had done something right before I walked up. And Coach Gray was like, you about to go over and apologize to that lady right now. Right now. Let's go. So But to Carol's point, sometimes this is what we do to acknowledge that these things are wrong. Apologies and public apologies are not wrong. When politicians, when stars, when people cheat on their wives and they get caught or they apologize. We've seen this. We could say social pressure forced you to do it. You know, your party made you acknowledge it, whatever. But look what happens in the world we have where we have a president who won't apologize for sexually assaulting a woman. I get it. Thank you. But so
we're gonna have to do a part 2.
We're gonna have to do a part.
We're gonna have to do a part two. We're gonna read all these comments and come back to all of them.
Yeah, we gotta do a part 2.
We gotta do a part 2.
But it's good discussion. We gotta go, but we appreciate it. And thank you, Tayana, for your comment. Would Peter or Paul recruit last night's club singer to lead worship? Ooh. Then the question is, does public confession and repentance stop the ridicule though? Could it do more harm than good with the congregation's actions toward the person? You know what, Marlon? And their context, she said that was the step taken and the church embraced her.
Right.
In other contexts, it's turned into other things.
I mean, I guess the question would be, would the church not embrace her if she didn't do it? I mean, maybe
they would look at her as rebellious and unwilling to follow the beliefs of their church. You know what you're supposed to do when you mess up like this. You've seen it before, kind of a thing. Thank you. I wanted to put that on Facebook, but I wanted to leave it alone. This generation did not grow up on Jimmy Swaggart and Jim Baker. Right. Because, man, when them white brothers was on TV, and you're right, when he got up and confessed, he became the first meme.
Yeah.
They were doing SNL jokes about him, So I think we have to own that we have turned these types of things that in the right sense, and I know there's a lot of wrong application to this, but we've turned what could be a restorative part of the healing and repentance process. And no, apologizing isn't always repenting, but if you're sorry enough to get up in front of people and say it, it's meaningful. The fact that we've turned that into a bit of a joke or something to mock or something to say that people shouldn't have to do or there's some nefarious, you almost take away a very key element of the faith altogether.
And I agree with you. And I'm going to say this, we got to close though. I have been there. I have been where I had to get up in front of the church and apologize. But I only got up in church and apologized so that I can get back to my position. Because that same night, the same thing I was apologizing for, I done.
You did it again. Well, so, Jimmy just said that Jimmy did it again.
It's realistic.
But this has been a fruitful conversation. And again, everyone is entitled to their own beliefs, thoughts. Again, to those who have been genuinely hurt, I really am praying for people because to be a pastor in 2025, knowing what people have endured, and they're just giving church a chance again in a way. So that kind of colors our approach. Trust me, the way we preach and teach and do church now is based off of what we saw in the past. Mm-hmm. That's why this is such a surprise to people. That's why this is such a shock, because it's not normal, because most people avoid this. Now, I can't knock what some people choose to still follow, but obviously the vast majority of our churches you walk in, even the ones that you might have grown up in and it was that way, they're not that way. You will not walk into a church. Kojic, Baptist, most churches you won't walk in and see people being publicly shamed and called out and all that. People don't believe it. They've already had I'm ready to wash my hands of it. But I think the church, like you said, and by the way, just like you said, you only apologized to get back in position. Some churches only shifted so that they wouldn't lose the crowd they could have.
Absolutely.
They still have a low view of people. Mm-hmm. They still have these old school convictions. And some of them are betraying their own convictions.
To keep the crowd.
To keep a crowd.
Keep the members.
And they could have had the members and kept the crowd 40 years ago when they were doing that, but they know they can't now. So in their hearts, there are preachers who wish they could call folk out and call them up and believe that they'd have a better church.
Absolutely.
And a stronger faith.
Absolutely.
If that was remember, when we talk about how strong the church used to be and how many folk used to go, they went doing this. Remember, I know it eventually fell off and turned into a thing, but let's be clear here. This was the church, what we saw in that video. Yeah. When we claim it was bursting out the seams, everybody was together and unified. All that talk we talk about, all of the old school stuff we despise now. Now we could say that's what killed it, or part of it, but you can't deny it wasn't a part of it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I love the discussion. Thank you, Pastor Jeff. Thank you,
man.
We got to follow that. And Mike already got our next show, Talent versus Anointing. Musicians in the club and in the church. The juke joint. Last words, Mike?
No, I'm good.
You good?
I'm good.
Pastor Jeff?
Great show, man. Great show. Like I said, let's follow up. It's a lot to talk about.
It's a lot to uncover. It's a lot to unpack. Thank you for all. We didn't get to all of your comments, but thank you for sharing them.
There were so many tonight. Appreciate it.
Yeah, a lot of it. Prayers to the young lady and their family and their church and pastor, by the way. If you're going to have grace, you got to have grace for everybody.
Absolutely.
If the pastor messed up, would you forgive him? If he don't make a public apology?
It happens.
Can he have a private?
It happens.
I'm just saying, can we if we really feel the preacher's wrong, will you have the same grace you want him to have for that sister? I'm just saying. You got to practice what we preach. Yeah. So I love it. Y'all know I wanted to get this out. I had a lot to say about it. Appreciate y'all giving me the space to rant and go through these pieces. But hey, y'all, 2025. We got one topic. If you got any other topics you want us to touch on, I love what you said, Tayana. Would Peter or Paul recruit a club singer to be a worship leader? That's a good one. That's
Crazy.
A good one.
Please, y'all. If y'all got topics, throw them out there.
Throw them out there. Yeah, we have to do a post and ask for topics. We appreciate y'all. We love y'all. Be safe. Stay warm. Pray for California. Pray for Haiti. Pray for Sudan. Pray for the Middle East. Pray for everybody. Pray for everybody.
Pray for the world.
Pray for the world. Until next time, Sunday night service, we out.
Peace, y'all.